that's what you think of when you think of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned Sam Simon there, because him and Mimi Pond didn't exactly see eye to eye, did they? There was some issues there.
It seems so she's credited for writing the first episode of The Simpsons. Now, even though it wasn't meant to be the first episode, that was just by chance, but you know, that's it now, cemented in history for that. And the episode, so the Roasting on the Fire episode, went on to be nominated for 2 Emmy Awards, and despite, you know, having this much influence, really, Pond did not become a regular member of the writing team, and she alleged it was because the showrunner at the time, Sam Simon, did not want women on the team.
Yeah, and it's interesting that like the very first episode of The Simpsons was written by a woman, but I never heard of Mimi Pond until we started researching this.
And yeah, it's just, so in a 2017 interview with Jezebel, Mimi Pond stated, quote, "I was never invited to be on the staff, and I never knew why for the longest time. No one ever called me or explained to me or apologized or anything. And it wasn't until years later that I found out that Sam Simon, who was the showrunner, didn't want any women around because he was going through a divorce. It had remained a boys' club for a good long time. I feel like I was just as qualified as anyone else who came along and got hired on the show, and it was just because I was a woman that I was, you know, not allowed entry into that club. I always wind up being the turd in the punch bowl because the show was just so beloved and everything. And I'm sorry to burst bubbles, but it wasn't a pleasant experience for me," end quote.
Yeah, and it's a shame that it wasn't a pleasant experience for her, because she got to write the first episode of this cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, that went on to be the biggest show ever.
It went on to be the biggest show ever, went on to be timeless, and it really should have been one of the happiest moments of her life.
Yeah.
And as a creator herself, like, it was a massive break for her.